Draft night has come and gone, and I know the consensus belief among Kings fans is that the result was underwhelming. And I'm not here to persuade you one way or another, but the fact is that Keegan Murray is a Sacramento King. Regardless of what you may think about the pick, Murray is a tremendous player who will provide the Kings with a ton of two-way production at the 4 that they've been missing for so long. So let's get into just what Keegan Murray will bring to the Sacramento Kings. The most obvious skill that should fit right in with Sacramento is the 3-point shooting and spacing Murray provides. Keegan shot about 40% from 3 last season on just under 5 attempts per game, and this is a skill that should translate to the NBA without much problem. His shot is solid overall mechanically with a good base to go along with it. Iowa also ran a ton of different actions to fully utilize this ability. Keegan projects to be a lethal pick and pop threat and has experience coming off pin downs and various other actions to get a shot off. If you want to see a direct way this stuff translates to the NBA, here's a quick example. This is an action almost every team in the league runs for early offense, away staggered screens for a shooter. Here the Kings ran it for Harrison Barnes to get him a look at a 3. Then here's the exact same setup ran by Iowa this past season, with Keegan as one of the bigs setting a stagger. But instead of this play being ran for the wing to get a shot, it turns into a twirl action where the wing rescreens for Keegan, who then pops out for 3. These types of sets were on display all season when watching Keegan. Constant movement and being effective both as a screener as well as coming off screens. This kind of activity off ball is a really underrated skill in players and should give the Kings plenty to work with and allow for some creativity. But he won't need plays to be ran for him in order to be valuable as a shooter. Just the pure spacing he provides will help guys like Fox and Sabonis tremendously in the half court. The other way I would anticipate Keegan to be productive in the half court is by cutting. Keegan is a high IQ player with a great feel for the game and has a knack for being in the right place at the right time. I can't understate how important this is going to be playing alongside Sabonis. With how great of a passer Sabonis is out of the post, having someone who can consistently make himself available with timely cuts is invaluable. Murray is someone who doesn't move off ball just for the sake of movement, he moves with a purpose. All of his cuts to the basket are hard and with the intent of creating a window for the ball handler to make a pass. Keegan has great hands and shot 61% around the basket this past season according to Synergy. That number ranks him in about the 76th percentile of all players. Keegan has all the recipes to be a matchup problem for opposing players in the league as well. At about 6'8", with a 6'11 wingspan, he's going to be bigger than most 3s, but he's also sneaky athletic, especially for his size, which will pose a problem for some of the slower footed 4s out there. Again, when Keegan attacks, he attacks hard. He doesn't have a ton of advanced moves and isn't going to wow you off the dribble, but he was able to create for himself even without this ability. I love how strong he is with the ball, how he can finish through contact, and has really good control of his body around the basket. You mainly see Keegan wanting to drive left, but he's crafty enough with some of these spins to provide counters for when he's cut off. With this strong driving ability, Keegan should be really dangerous with attacking closeouts, which is another vastly important skill to have for someone who projects to be a great shooter from deep. Plays like this one here will show you some of the potential self-creation upside there could be with Keegan. He flashes a nice handle and manages to create just enough of an angle for him to get to the basket where he willingly invites the contact and finishes through it. Most of his shots are going to come from either at the rim or from 3. There's been flashes of an in-between game off the dribble, but nothing consistent enough to get excited about. Developing this kind of self-creation is likely what would separate him from ever becoming more than a high-level role player. In order for the Kings to unleash De'Aaron Fox's speed to its fullest potential, I would expect the Kings to play at a high tempo and an extremely fast brand of basketball. And in order for this to work, they need guys who will willingly run the floor in transition alongside Fox. Well, Keegan is probably the best player for that job. The majority of his offense came via transition, where he ranked in the 97th percentile. Keegan absolutely loves running the court and generates so many easy baskets just off of pure effort. Both Fox and Sabonis are guys who can push the tempo, and Domas especially looks to create for others when running the break. Keegan gives you that non-stop motor and will outwork his opponent more often than not. Beyond that, Keegan is a grab-and-go threat himself. Even without an elite handle or playmaking ability, there were plenty of times where he was able to lead the break by himself, going coast to coast. I'm not sure how much the Kings will truly emphasize this ability of his, but it's still something to keep in mind nonetheless. It's also important to note how well Murray crashes the offensive glass, which is another testament to the motor that he has. Just under 3 offensive rebounds per game, and a good portion of them resulted in putbacks, another way Keegan got himself going without having the offense forced to run through him. The last skill offensively we need to take a look at is some of the post work we saw out of Keegan. The Kings didn't draft him to play in the post, but depending on matchups and certain mismatches, I'm sure we'll see some of this eventually. After all, he did rank in the 99th percentile on post-ups. And again, he does this without having an advanced moveset. Keegan is incredible at generating post position, and he knows when and how to seal off his man for duck-ins or looks over the top, and he creates easy angles for ball handlers to find him. His strong hands are always on display here, and he makes very quick and decisive moves. There are not a lot of wasted motions, and I love how quick he works in the offensive end altogether. He makes it tougher for defenses to adjust and rotate in time. Moving over to the defensive end, the block and steal numbers jump off the board. Averaging a combined 3.2 stocks per game is impressive in itself, but factoring in the offensive workload he had to provide for Iowa, and the numbers are even more eye-opening. Keegan isn't the quickest laterally, but he should be able to hold his own against most 3s and 4s. He could also be pretty switchable on the guards in the NBA, although I feel there will be a learning curve there. He struggles to cut defenders off, but his length is able to make it more difficult for guards even when he loses a half step on him. Keegan really knows how to use his size, and he's great at getting a hand on the ball. Still, letting the players turn the corner like he does will be a disaster on the NBA level, but I have faith he'll be able to adjust over time. I have zero questions about his effort here though. This is one of my favorite plays of his, where he manages to get skinny and fight through double ball screens to keep himself in the play, and even though he mistimes his jump, he still gets a hand on the ball to save a basket. We don't know exactly what the Kings will do schematically in terms of defense, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Kings switch 1 through 4 on a regular basis. Maybe they shy away from this in order to avoid Keegan being hunted by guards, but the Kings could also buy his switchability from day one. Regardless, I think the long-term potential of Keegan here is very intriguing. Murray isn't some sort of elite rim protector or help defender, but not just every player is going to average 1.9 blocks a game either. Keegan has great instincts as a help side rim protector despite standing just 6'8". He's great at timing his breaks and jumps on the ball, and typically knows when to fully commit. His lack of size prevents him from always affecting shots, but his positioning is almost always there. But because of the ability that he did flash as a help side defender, he should be a great fit next to Sabonis on the defensive end. Here Keegan is on the weak side of a high pick and roll, where his initial job is a high tag of the roller. But after a weak hedge by the big, Keegan recognizes the open lane created for the ball handler, so he abandons the roller and makes an incredible break on the ball. Overall, I love the instincts and awareness Keegan showed on defense. Some players just have a knack for making plays on the ball, and Keegan is one of those guys. It's hard to see him not being at least somewhat of a positive on this side of the floor. The Kings didn't draft Keegan 4th overall because of fit, they drafted him because they viewed him as the best player available. He just so happens to fit seamlessly around the core of Fox and Sabonis. The Kings' two biggest needs were defense and shooting, and Keegan gives you both with the potential for more. It's really hard to be upset about the pick when you look at it that way. So although he may not be the guy you wanted, there is still a ton of reason for optimism. And thank you guys for watching and supporting the channel. I got a ton of more content coming out before the start of the regular season. Let me know what you guys would like to see next, and until then, see you guys next time.